Hey, good morning, Rob Browne, Brendan Martin,
Morning,
producer. Hey, a lot to cover today. You saw on that thing that you get out about the show. We're going to bat leadoff. Ralph Russo, formerly AP's national college football writer, is now over with The Athletic. Really enjoyed his first visit a few weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago. Met him at Media Days. Hang on, folks. Get pen and paper handy. A lot he's going to cover. Will Gunner checks in from over in Columbia, South Carolina. The Game, 107.5. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Rodney Orr, Tider Insider. Smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Buckle up, people. Lot to cover. Rankings come out tonight on the 12-team CFP. We had Alyssa Lang from SEC Network last night as our speaker at the Touchdown Club. She's going to be on the show with us next Monday. Folks, they couldn't have dreamed it being any better than this, but let's get cranked up. We got Frank Duffy checking in from over in Big Canoe in the North Georgia mountains, and Ralph Russo. Ralph and Frank, I think that, Ralph, when you were on last time, you were with AP. Let's talk about your move to The Athletic. Congratulations. You wouldn't have done it if it wasn't a good deal for you. But how much fun is it, and do you love this football season?
It has been a great football season. It is very tricky to change jobs during the football season. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for people who cover college football. I changed jobs at the end of September. It is, to use the cliche, it is what it is. Yeah. But it's worked out great. Listen, I owe my career, my life in some ways to the AP. I was honored to work there for a really, really, really long time. For almost 3 decades. But the opportunity to do essentially the same job, I'm basically doing the same job. I cover college football, college sports nationally for The Athletic, was a great offer, was a great opportunity, and I've really enjoyed it. And you're right, this football season has been, I think what's one of the reasons why this football season has been so cool. Obviously, there's a lot of changes, so there's a newness to it. Mm-hmm. But also, we've really concentrated on the field. There hasn't been a lot of realignment stuff and where the playoff is going. Like the last few years, there's been a ton of controversies, starting with 2020 with the pandemic, right? That blew up that season. But afterwards, it seems like every season has issues or, again, controversies, things off the field distracting from the games. And there's been far less of that this year. And I think that's been pretty cool.
Well, when you look at the 12 teams last night at the Touchdown Club, mentioned Alyssa Lang from SEC Network was there. A lot of talk among the members. Is the SEC going to have 5, Big Ten 4, Big 12 1, ACC 1, at-large 1? What do you see happening?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do think this thing has developed to the point where it's fairly clear the group of teams that are going to have consideration down the stretch. But I think what's also pretty neat is I don't think any of those teams, aside from maybe Oregon, I think Oregon probably has a mulligan one more time if they lose. But I think just about any team, if it loses one more game, and I'd say this before the conference championship game. Let's take the conference championship game and just say the November games here. I think any team that loses again before the end of November has a chance to be eliminated, to not get in at all. So that's interesting, right? Because it puts a lot of high stakes on these games. And I think we were worried that, oh no, what's going to happen is Auburn, Alabama, I'm just going to pull one out of the air, isn't going to matter, right? Yeah. Because, Alabama will be so safe that they'll be able to get in no matter what. And that's not the case. If Alabama were to lose to Auburn, they're going to have a hard time getting in. So it's interesting how it's kind of coalesced around about 13, 14 teams. Maybe a few others are a little bit sort of on the outskirts that are also interesting too, that have a chance to play their way in. And, it's in some ways it's worked exactly the way the people who decided to expand it hoped it would work, and that you have about 20 teams that people are now interested in. And if you're interested in, if you're a Tennessee fan, you have to be very interested in what happens at Indiana, Ohio State this weekend, right? And other SEC fans, and that's what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, Frank, jump in here with Ralph Russo, The Athletic. What's your title now at The Athletic?
Oh, it's still basically national college football writer. I mean, you throw a senior writer in there, but ultimately I'm national college football writer.
Congrats again,
your
Ralph.
work speaks for itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats again.
Thank you very much.
It always comes down almost every season to strength of schedule, what your wins are, what your losses are, and I think that's going to be really the case this year. When you're looking at the Big Ten, you've got Indiana, you got Ohio State, you've got Penn State, and arguably, if you look at the totality of their schedules, it's nowhere near what the SEC has gone through. So you're going to have that committee have to decide between a good record and really a good resume. Speak to that if you can, especially this year with the 12-team playoff. You would think that we would have less controversy. I think there actually could be more controversy before it's over with.
Yeah, I think the thing is you'll get more controversy, but maybe less impactful. In other words, I think there'll be now. Let me caveat this. For the team that gets left out, there's going to be a lot of controversy and a lot of consternation. I would say on a more of a national level, hey man, you lost twice. Sorry, right? Like I don't think it'll be quite the same as like a Florida State last year, for example. When it's 4 teams, I think there's a sense that if you could be left out by no and not necessarily have deserved it in a way that's like, hey, I could possibly have won a national championship, but I got left out, right? Like you have those situations. So about the schedules and things along those lines, yes, I think the most challenging thing this year is going to be sort of this, like we now have these super conferences with a lot of power concentrated within those conferences, especially the SEC, which is stronger than ever. I would push back on a couple of things, though. I don't like getting too bogged down on like 3 or 4 games or 2 or 3 games. Like, okay, who's your best win? Who's your worst? What's your loss? And we're just going to judge you on that. Like, I think we get a little too bogged down in the in a handful of games without looking at the totality of a schedule. Because I think sometimes like team 27 can be good, but it's not a ranked win, right? But it's not that team 27 is not that much different from team 17.
Sure.
Right? I kind of like to look at the whole picture. Listen, even within the SEC, part of the issue here of like separating the SEC teams is, well, Texas didn't play as good a schedule as Georgia. And, Ole Miss only played Georgia and won, but they lost. Like, so even within the conferences, I think it's really hard to decipher because it looks like Alabama and Georgia have played the toughest schedules, the real grindy SEC tough schedules. But then if you look at some of those other teams, it's like, well, Tennessee, sure, they beat Alabama and then they lost to Georgia, but they lost to Arkansas. Well, that's not that great of a win. Like, so even with my big thing is like, how do you separate the SEC teams when within a conference to just say it's an SEC schedule means different things?
Well, and the parity is so big this year that you almost are going to have to wait until that last weekend to see if something is a good win or not. What looked like good wins in September and October might not be that way in, come that last week of November.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, like I also think that, one of the things that we make a mistake of is we do a lot of, well, if they win out and well, they're favored in their next 2 games, so they'll probably be okay. I'm looking around the country and looking for more twists and turns, right?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly
they're coming.
Yeah, clearly Indiana, Ohio State is a really big game this weekend. And, listen, I think Indiana needs to at least be competitive in that game. I think if Indiana really gets smacked around, I know they could be 11-1 because they'll probably beat Purdue. I think that one I can feel confident in.
Yeah.
But if it's 31-14 this weekend, I could see that being a problem for the Hoosiers going forward. The other thing I would also say, guys, like I know there's been a lot of consternation and like and freaking out about what the rankings look like right now. I know there's all these Big Ten teams in there, but again, like the Ohio State Indiana thing, that'll kind of sort itself out.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried. I don't feel the need to like defend the SEC. The SEC will be fine, right? The SEC is going to be fine in this thing. Don't get too worked up over these early rankings.
Yeah. I want to bring in Will Gunter from 107.5 The Game over. He covers South Carolina closely in Columbia. And also say hello to Brian Linsing Brothers Heating and Air, watching in Subiaco, Arkansas, up on Lake Dardanelle in the Ozarks. Lucky man he is. His favorite pastime is putting together bunk beds and fixing ice makers. He's a member of our hunting club. But, Will, we got Ralph Russo, was AP's National College Writer. He's now National College Writer with The Athletic, talking about this crazy season. I say crazy, but here it is, November the 19th, and everybody's glued to the TV sets every week. Did you imagine it being this good? And Gamecocks at 7-3 easily could be 9-1 right there in the picture too.
Yeah. I mean, I
muted?
figured we'd have something like this. I think it just continues. It continues to go to show that whatever you want to think about the offseason, however you want to do the offseason in terms of portal and NIL, and man, we hate seeing how it's actually made behind the scenes. The product is as good as it's ever been. The on-the-field product is as much fun and as good as it's ever been. And you see what's kind of coming down the pipe the next few weekends. We've expanded the conversation now to have more teams involved and be able to discuss some games. Look, South Carolina plays Wofford this week, and Clemson plays Citadel. Clemson and South Carolina will be a little bit of an elimination game nationally. Now, does South Carolina have a chance to get in? No. But I don't think the percentage is 0 right now. It's single digits, mind you. It's single digits. But South Carolina and Missouri this past weekend was kind of an elimination game. You can look around the country and find a few other games where teams are right there on the edge, that if some crazy stuff, if Louisville keeps getting, if some team decides to pull a Louisville and get 20 yards worth of penalties with 1 second left and get knocked, how we see the college football playoff ranking. I am with Ralph on, look, these rankings early on, I think, are meant for discussion. The college football playoff committee does things, I think, just to create discussion. I think tonight's the first time you get an actual idea of what they're kind of have them ranked. How do you have Indiana ranked compared now with the Tennessee loss? Things of that nature that I think we can hone in on a little bit closer and go, okay, I see what you're trying to do here with Boise State against, say, maybe a Miami, who is still the favorite, I believe, Vegas-wise, to win the ACC. So a lot of things there that I think are kind of interesting.
Ralph, I mean, we're having
makes it more exciting, and to the point, it's the 4 or 5 teams that got left out.
Yeah. Ralph, along the line of what Will just said, I think he made great points. It's the teams that don't get in. This year, there's only going to be 12. I was never one that believed if you expanded the playoff, you would deter interest. You cover college football nationally. I'm a big lover of the game being good all over the country. What are the folks out in Boise and on the West Coast? What do they think about this? Is it what they thought, or is it better?
Well, I think that's a good question, especially with like Boise is a good example, right? I mean, that's a school that has had national success, and it's fallen off a little bit in the last couple of years. They're still very good, but I think drawing in Boise, drawing in Tulane, drawing in the service academies this year because of the great year they're having, even if you look a little bit, and I think Will made a good point, right? Like Clemson. Do I see a great path for them? No, but the fact of the matter is they are still in it. And even as South Carolina, you're right. South Carolina is probably the fringiest of the fringe, right? But we talk about games that, hey, Vanderbilt loses to Tennessee. Vanderbilt beats Tennessee. What happens if an upset here or an upset there? Like even if you're just on the fringes, hell, let's talk about Arizona State, which we hadn't thought a damn about Arizona State all year. Now, correct. Kenny Dillingham has done a really good job there. And he has that's been recognized that he did a great turnaround. But all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, Arizona State is in this race. And they have a huge game this weekend against BYU, which wasn't on anybody's radar. certainly before the season, but even a few weeks ago, we thought of that as like just a step on the road for BYU. So to bring these teams in to massive, meaningful games in November, again, is exactly the way it was drawn up.
Yeah, and another prime example of that, Colorado. Look at Colorado hovering. I mean, how cool would that storyline be?
What's super interesting to me about Colorado is, how is it possible that Deion Sanders' team has done this quietly, right? To a certain degree, listen, there's always a lot of hype around Deion, and, and he's done a great job this year, and he's got two brilliant players in his son at quarterback and Travis Hunter. But the idea that they have sort of snuck up on people again, and not quite like Arizona State, because we could have spotted Colorado, but the fact that it's just been like a slow burn. They're just going out there, taking care of their business, and all of a sudden, bang, like they are absolutely. I mean, right now, I think they're the favorite in the Big 12 because of the way their schedule works out.
Yeah. Well, looking at South Carolina in this thing, Clemson down a little bit from what they were just a few years ago. Are you sensing that Shane Beamer and that staff, and NIL included, are making a power move? Because this is a really good football team.
Amongst people in the state, that the program's as close as they've been in about 15 years, 14, 15 years. Yeah. And that South Carolina, Clemson made a decision years ago when they became a national power to go out of state and start recruiting more and more out of state elite athletes. And it opened the door for South Carolina here in state to really build inroads. And when Shane Beamer came in, and Will Muschamp had done a good job.
Yeah.
But inroads with some of the top players in the state. And you're kind of seeing that play out. I don't know if South Carolina will ever be a national program to go to Texas or California or to Ohio and recruit. But if you can lock down Georgia and get the second tier guys, the guys that Georgia decides they're not going to take, which are usually really good players, really, really good players. Yeah. Some of South Carolina's best players to ever come through this program, George Rogers and Sterling Sharp, are from the state of Georgia. You get Connor Shaw. Connor Shaw came from the state of Georgia.
Flowery Branch.
But you think about it, if you can land your area, you're fine. And so what's happened is Clemson's dropped a little bit, as you pointed. Well, now they're not necessarily the nationally elite program that they were to go out and recruit. Now they're having a hard time in state, and it has changed a little bit. It's going to be a really interesting game up there coming up in 2 weeks that we're all excited about. Look, the game it's going to be a noon game. It's going to be ESPN. It's going to follow game day. Game I guess will be at Texas A&M, and then it's going to have some national attention to it. We'll see what the rankings are. Not inconceivable that it's a top 15 college football playoff ranking game. I think we'll find out tonight. But again, going back to what y'all kind of said, kooky things happen. Rankings move up or down. I think South Carolina was 21 this past weekend. Maybe they moved to about 18 tonight, somewhere in there. Clemson will move up to about 17 or 16, I assume. So. Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. We haven't had one like this here in a long time that's coming up. And, again, we can kind of fast forward to it because we've got Wofford. They've got Citadel this week. So we're all kind of starting to focus on Turkey Week.
Yeah, well, Ralph, Ralph, you've got another show coming up here in a few minutes. But before you go, what Will just said, and Frank, and we're going to get into it more. We've got Yancey Porter from the Rebel Yell Hotline coming up in a minute, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider. It just gets better and better. Love having you on. We need to do it more often because it's so entertaining to hear about college football around the country. Kind of close us out, let people know how they can follow you. But with the message, I guess, Lee Fitting, I'm sure you know him, executive producer of ESPN Sports, 2 or 3 years ago. Yep. He said it on game day. We expand this playoff. Ideally, the people in the West Coast, East Coast, and everywhere in between in mid-November, late November, are still going to be paying attention. You alluded to it, as did Frank and Will. You got Tulane, the service academies. Hell, Memphis fans are pissed off that they're only going to go 9-3 or 10-2 this year. It's just a crazy world. What we need now is Lance Russell and Dave Browne with studio wrestling on Saturday morning. It might make it even more fun.
Yeah, it's been a very fun season. Again, the idea that we also kept it on the field has made it even more fun. It's great that it's Listen, I know SEC fans probably don't want to have to pay attention to the Big Ten as much as they do because it kind of gives them a little credence. It kind of gives the Big Ten a little credence. But the fact that they do have to pay attention to it, I think, is what sort of what was being alluded to there. Having the country connected in a way where all these games matter. And, again, going back to Will, like it's because even if South Carolina is not fully in the race, well, now South Carolina spoiling Clemson's playoff chances, which happened a couple of years ago. That's pretty cool too. So even the teams that are on the outskirts, like I think of USC, Notre Dame. USC's not having a very good season.
No.
But if USC can knock Notre Dame out of the playoff on the last day of the season, or the last Saturday of the season, well, that raises the stakes on that game too in ways for these teams that can play spoiler. So it just raises the temperature and the excitement and the intensity on so many games because even the teams that are out of it have a chance to influence it.
The intrigue of November is twofold of what it normally has been. It really is. And let me tell you, that South Carolina Clemson game, Will, I'm excited to see that. Shane Beamer is my guy for SEC Coach of the Year. I think he's done a fantastic job. I was there when LSU went in to play you guys. When game day was there, it was an incredible atmosphere. So I think you guys have done awesome, and I think y'all beat Clemson. I think you do have a single-digit shot, but still in there. But the interest, like Ralph is saying, of all these other stories, Indiana is a top 5 college football story. And then you add Army in. I mean, going back to the days of, Glenn Davis and Doc Blanchard, you haven't had this type of interest in an Army team. And let me tell you something, they're not a fluke. They're a damn good football team, and it's shaping up for Tulane and Army to play that championship game. And it might be either in Ullman or out up in West Point. And I'm telling you what, that's going to be must-watch football.
Yeah,
from these second-tier teams.
Ralph, you're up in Brooklyn. I know you get to travel a lot and stuff. Leave us, before you go, with one great restaurant we don't know about. Frank is a food junkie, and he will be there probably next week.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me give you one. God, there's so many in my neighborhood. There's one called it's the Stone Cafe. It's over on Fifth Avenue, not that far from where I live. I don't want to give my exact address here.
That's not probably wise in Brooklyn.
Like Kalen DeBoer was giving out his phone number when he first got to Bama, and Greg McElroy said, "Oh, you don't want to do that."
Yeah.
Well, so that's a good restaurant to go to if you want to follow me. I'm at Ralph D. Russo ATH. I used to be AP. Ralph D. Russo ATH on X. Eventually, I'll be on some of those other platforms too as they continue to grow. I will say this, my last word before I got on out of here. Like you will not find a more like regular guy in college football coaching than Kalen DeBoer. I don't think he realizes how big of a deal he is. And I've always appreciated that from him. As you said, giving out his phone number and just being like, hey, he is definitely the type of guy who I don't think will ever be starstruck with himself, if that's a possibility. Yeah. So anyway, good joining you guys. I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon. Have a great day, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
That is awesome stuff, Ralph Russo. Will, I'm with Frank. Frank was over there. We both go to a lot of games. You do. That atmosphere in Columbia, man. 107.5 the game. You got a great statewide show. Florence, Myrtle Beach, there in Columbia. You go into the upstate much, or does Clemson try to say, that's ours, Spartanburg and Anderson and all? I would think you're everywhere.
There's some stuff in the works.
Good. Okay.
Go with that.
All right. Tell us this. Last night we were talking at the Touchdown Club when Alyssa Lang was there. She's a South Carolina alum, very proud. Her parents are Hokies. She's really, really, really good. Those defensive linemen that you've got at South Carolina, a lot of people, and every school's got to worry about this. We're going to focus myopically on the Gamecocks. NIL kicking in there at Columbia. You got plenty of people. There's a lot of industry in the state of South Carolina, which means money.
Well, listen, I think you were going with the defensive line. There's only one defensive lineman they really got to worry about right now, and that's Dylan Stewart, because the rest are about to graduate. You got to go out there. They're in the hunt. I'm keeping an eye on my phone right now, but they're in the hunt for 5-star Jared Smith, who's currently committed to Auburn.
Yeah.
and was here in town this weekend, and they would love to get him to pair with Dylan Stewart. I think 24/7 Sports has him as the 25th or 20th best rated player in the country overall. But yeah, I had Brad Crawford on my show last week, and we discussed going into this offseason, South Carolina's going to have to replace those defensive linemen. Kyle Kennard is a guy who's got to be replaced, and they're going to have to go into the transfer portal. And what is your NIL situation looking like? And, we both agreed South Carolina, if you were to do an NIL ranking nationally, South Carolina's probably between about 20 and 25, maybe a few spots ahead of 20, but no worse than 25. And you still have to upgrade that. You have to continue to work on that and build fan base. And that comes through win football games. And that's why, honestly, for South Carolina, and there's other programs, but it is so important to win 9 regular season games and maybe go win a 10th game in the bowl. I very rarely why I ever tell you that winning a bowl game is important. For South Carolina, it might be one of the few times, or might be the only bowl game, not playoff game, that is vital to the program, because if you can win 10 games, you can hit the what we want to call it, the political circuit, the communities, the club circuit, and say, hey, we look at what we just did. I need you to donate more so we can go get more guys like that. So they're in a good spot, but they need to be in a better spot. Yeah.
I mean, I think Frank's right, and you're right. South Carolina in 1984, Joe Morrison won. They went 10-2, and then in 2011, 12, and 13, they won 11 games, 3 straight years. Ain't many teams that can do that. That's pretty damn impressive. And I think that Jared Smith deal, that's the kid out of Thompson in Alabaster, committed to Auburn a long time ago. Let's bring back Monty Hall from the grave, man. Let's make a deal. This NIL stuff, Frank, I mean, Will, we're both talking about it. I think it may not be there until it has to be there, Frank.
Well, we're holding off Bryce Underwood going to Michigan, and he's got a $10.5 million offer on the table. I hope the kid likes gumbo. That's all I'm telling you, because we're going to be, we'll be scraping the nickels off the couch at Cane's, Raising Cane's, to pay for that. So, but look. That's the nature of the beast right now. You got to pony up. If you don't pony up, you're not going to win. I mean, hell, I remember when Saban came to talk to us before he'd ever coached a game at LSU, came to the Atlanta, alumni group. We had a big crawfish boil, and the first words out of his mouth, "You guys want to win?" Everybody, yeah, absolutely. He goes, "Great. Put a crowbar in your wallet." This was back in 2000. If you think it was important to have the mother's milk of college football being cash back then, it really is now. And look no further than Rob and Doug's team, Auburn. Look what they've done. They're a top 3 right now recruiting class. Well, let me tell you something. There's a lot of money in that Pinewood, that Yellowwood out there. And you got and if you want to win, you've got to pony up. And it's what Florida's that's probably gonna be Florida's way back with the Bull Gators. They're gonna hit them up for cash. And that's your way back as quickly as you can. I think you're right, though, Will. I think for South Carolina, you've got to sew up that state. And if Clemson is leaving their back door open, it makes it perfect for you guys to go in there. And look, kids want to play in the SEC. They want to go to those big games. And look, this triple header that we got now on ABC it's like a billboard. I mean, to getting to that next level. So I absolutely see great things for South Carolina. And I don't think there's a better fan base that has been more passionate and more loyal for a team without the actual hardware to do it with. That is a passionate fan base. And I think good things are coming down the line for them to be rewarded. And all Shane Beamer needed was some time to put it together.
Yeah. Again, this would be something that could set it off. If they can beat Clemson, Beamer would be 2-2 against Clemson. You'd have 2 wins up there. Like I said, if you can get to 10 wins, if you're 9-3, I think there's an outside chance at the Citrus Bowl. Maybe none of us want to go. We've been to Tampa so many times the last 20 years. Nobody here wants to go to Tampa and the Reliant. No offense to Tampa, I got a good buddy that lives down there. But yeah, and
I've been there 2 years in a row. I don't want to go back. I've been there 2 years in a row. I don't want to go back.
Or Tampa.
I'm tired of that damn pirate ship.
But winning 10 would be the thing that Shane Beamer could really sell. Look, the guy knows how to make connections. I mean, Rob's talked about his relationship with Frank Beamer and knowing that family, and Shane knows how to recruit. That was kind of the blueprint. But you got to recruit, you got to win, and they're on the verge of that. And the other part is South Carolina doesn't have many 10-win seasons in its history. That's an accomplishment. So there's things out there, like I said. Is that little E next to their name yet to be eliminated from the college football playoff? Not yet. They're single digit. Probably not going to happen, but it is fun to say, hey, what if we do win 9 games and we can say, hey, look, our losses are to Alabama and Mississippi and LSU, and we look who we beat. It's fun to discuss. Again, like I said, we understand that the chances are very, very slim. I think somebody said last week, honestly, they need, if they have a chance, it is to beat Clemson by 4 or 5 touchdowns. Well, of course, as you would expect, people don't hear very well. So the Clemson fans thought the guy predicted a 4 or 5 touchdown victory. So we dealt with that. So
selective hearing, Will. All right, Will, what are you talking about before you go? I know you've been up since early this morning. What are you going to be talking about? And we'll let you go. You do a great job. Let's do it again next week. Always love having you come on talking about the Gamecocks and SEC. And we're going to be hitting you up for a lot of basketball talk here. It's here, but right now this football is blotting out the sun.
Yeah, and good thing for Lamont Paris. They got popped pretty good up at Indiana this past week by 16. And they had a season opening loss to North Florida. I think we're more focused on the seniors. Wofford, South Carolina should win handily. So South Carolina's got the second highest amount of 4th, 5th, and 6th-year players in the country. They got 38. Eastern Michigan has 39. So we'll talk about some of these seniors here. And I think we're still trying to do a deep dive and to figure out who has eligibility left that's a senior. It's the craziest thing. I think we're finally getting rid of the COVID seniors. Trashing the Clemson game, make it, because like I said, it's going to be special. It's going to at least be a top 20 game here. Should be 8-3 versus 9-2. Whether it has national relevance or not, it's going to be great for the state.
It's still a nasty rivalry, and that's what we love about it in college football. And believe it or not, Diego Pavia getting pushback about wanting to come back next year. I thought guys could stay forever, kind of like Meathead and All in the Family. Get a job, you bonehead. I am getting a fellowship. Drive Archie Bunker crazy.
That game 2 years ago with Spencer Rattler was a hell of a football game. I watched every minute of that game. That was a great game between y'all and Clemson.
31-30, man.
Yeah, all right,
game. Will,
this year should be fun too.
Well, we will do it again next week and be watching. Y'all will beat the Terriers soundly Saturday, man. Take care. Thanks for coming in with us.
And Rob, I got to run, but I want to leave one thing for Yancey. I want to let him know one thing. Yancey, in my opinion, right now, Ole Miss is the most dangerous team in the SEC. You guys are 2 plays away from being undefeated. And the crazy thing is, you probably won't make Atlanta again, as bizarre as that is. But I will tell you, when you guys get in the field of 12, and I think you will be the team that nobody wants to face.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
That's the best I can do as an LSU guy. I'm out. I'll see you guys.
Frank,
take care, my friend.
Mike. I'll see you Friday.
Take care, guys. All
right. Yancey, before you respond to that, let me say something about some of our sponsors. Landers Ford. God, last night was last regular meeting of this fall season of the Memphis Touchdown Club. Landers Ford, the #1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South. Brad Bellamy, Ken Ritchie, Don Kitchens, the whole crew there. They are presenting sponsor of the Touchdown Club of Memphis. $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience. Take that, tap on that QR code. They're open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The service department is. Sales, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, they're open every day of the week except Sunday, okay? Cars, trucks, SUVs, giant inventory, and they deliver anywhere. Okay, they got the Ford F-150s, the Expeditions. You know what? That new Bronco with the Sasquatch package, that is one of the coolest vehicles you will ever be in, and it drives so well. 4-wheel drive, off-road, the big tires, and it's a great driving experience built to last. Hey, Landers Ford got their name on 6 stadiums in the Mid-South, Houston High School and Collierville High School. The Landers Bowl, both are Landers stadiums in the playoffs coming up. And you know what? They invest in the community and their people in the Mid-South, but they will deliver anywhere located at Poplar and Houston Levy. Go there, talk to them if you're needing to get a car, truck, or SUV. Talk to Brad Bellamy, the general manager. He will get the process started. You will be glad that you did. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Also, want to say about Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company out there on the square in Collierville, Tennessee, on the eastern edge of Memphis. Christmas is coming up. Thanksgiving weekend, they'll start opening Sundays 12 to 5. They've got all the Barber, men's and women's clothing. The boots, God, they've got the best selection of boots you've ever seen in your life. Duckheads, Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, Anderson Bean boots. The boot room there, sometimes they do live from the boot room concerts. They even got a beer tap in there with some local brews. You will love going in there. John Wayne shops there. And you can get those cool hats, the Acres Down South shirts. Just a great place to go and shop. Great place to get gifts. Go to hewlettanddunn.com. Take the virtual tour. They will ship anywhere in the United States or around the world. Again, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m., starting Thanksgiving weekend, Sundays as well, through Christmas, 12 noon till 5 p.m. So after church, go out there, get you a great meal on the square, and go to Hewlett & Dunn and see Charles Hall, his wife Laura, Raven, JM, Squidward, the whole group. Great people to deal with. And I'm going to talk about Winter Timber Outdoors in a few minutes, but I want to get back to Yancey. Let him respond to what Frank Duffy said, and then Rodney Orr, Tider Insider. Man, college football, week 13. Can anybody remember this much interest nationally in college football, Yancey?
Yeah, it's going to be even more interest when they finally get it up to 16 teams, which is needed.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean this was the goal, moving it from 4 to 12 teams, and when you get to 16, it'll generate even more interest because you'll have even another 5, 10 teams that are legitimately in the race right now, like South Carolina Gamecocks. So yes, it's a lot of fun. Responding to Frank's comments there, I mean, Ole Miss is undoubtedly playing as good as anybody in the country. I said last week, and I still believe it. But I think Ole Miss and Alabama are the 2 best teams in the country right now.
They're playing well. Rodney, Ralph Russo, formerly AP's national college football writer, now same title with The Athletic, was just on. And he talked about Kalen DeBoer as the most down-to-earth guy. He goes, he's never going to be starstruck with himself. Hit a few bumps in the road, losing at Vanderbilt, at Tennessee. Football Power Index right now, kind of dovetailing off what Yancey just said, has Alabama at number 2 in the country. Your thoughts on Alabama, where they are today, going into this weekend's matchup in Norman? 2 great programs, but I give Alabama a lot of edges on this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in general, speaking of Alabama, they've improved a lot. I think the last, 12 quarters has been their best streak of football over a period of time. Obviously the first half against Georgia was great. But I think the last, 12 quarters have been really good, consistent. I think they have 9 turnovers in those 3 games. They've turned the ball over. I'm talking about they've created 9 turnovers. They've committed none. So what did we say a month ago or whatever it was ago, 5, 6 weeks ago, that if Alabama plays clean football, they're going to be a dramatically better team? Are they the top 1 or 2 or 3 teams? Everybody's got an opinion. I mean, I appreciate what Yancey says. I still think Alabama has a ways to go. They're getting better. I think they're potentially as good as anybody. They can certainly compete with anybody, but I don't think they're a great product right now. Not in my opinion. I mean, but then again, you have to understand too, guys. I've been watching Nick Saban for 17 years,
Yeah.
and I mean, everything is kind of compared to that. And that's not criticizing or being critical of anything DeBoer's done. I think he's done a fantastic, fabulous, credible job. He's worked through a lot of adversity. He's had to keep a lot of things together here in this first year. So he's doing a tremendous job. But just as far as, where the teams are right now, I think Alabama potentially, I like the potential of what this team can do.
Yeah. Yancey, Ole Miss got the big one coming up Saturday in the Swamp.
Yeah.
Florida seemingly is playing better. LSU certainly going in the other direction. DJ Lagway, I made the prediction Florida would win 2 of the last 5. They got 1 with LSU. I think the other one's going to be Florida State. But what keeps you up at night if you are Lane Kiffin and his staff about Saturday in the Swamp other than Saturday in the Swamp?
Well, anybody that watched that ball game would be kept up at night. Florida played at an extremely high level this past Saturday. I don't know, but 2 or 3 teams that could have beaten Florida this past Saturday. They're swarming on defense. They're just a totally different team with Lagway at the starting quarterback position there. They're playing very physical at the line of scrimmage. Their defensive line is very fast, very physical. It's good. I mean, Ole Miss is walking into a hornet's nest now. They're going to have to be on their A game to come out with a W there. It's a scary game for the Rebels for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they all are. Rodney, Tighter Insider TV tonight, 6:30. You'll and Gary Harris will be on there. What's the big concern with Alabama as they head out to Norman for the first time? You're talking about 2 of the 6 or 7 winningest teams in the history of college football. That means a lot.
Well, yeah, and I think just consistency, playing with consistency. Again, I talk about playing clean. And you're going on the road. It's going to be a hostile environment. There's no question about that. I hope the winds aren't 20 miles per hour. Because it can get like that at this time of year. But I think Alabama has to, like I said, play clean. They're going into a game where Oklahoma had a bye week. Certainly, Oklahoma has a lot of pride, a lot of tradition that they're really proud of. And you know what? They haven't had a very good season. They're 1-5 in the SEC or something.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a game where they've had a bye week. There's a lot of amends they can make, this week. So, we'll see. I just think that Alabama consistency, and it starts to me with Jalen Milroe. You know what? He's got to be consistent. He's done a better job of that over the last 3 weeks, not throwing interceptions, playing within himself at times, but also, making some really, really big plays. So that's really it. Just playing consistent. Don't give the game away.
Yeah. Yancey, you look at Ole Miss going to the Swamp, and then you've got to come back home and play the Egg Bowl, and that is on Black Friday, I believe. What is kickoff for the
Friday.
Egg Bowl this year? Yeah.
2:30.
That's okay. That's what I thought. 2:30.
It's such an unusual day for it not to be on Thanksgiving Day. It's kind of, I don't know. It feels kind of wrong.
Needs to
Not
be at
being on
night,
Thanksgiving Day.
Yancey.
Yeah, well, they don't give Ole Miss night games.
They should give that. That has always been a Thanksgiving night game, even if it's on Friday. At
Always.
least it needs to be on night, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know. It doesn't feel right. I think I've been to maybe 2 or 3 day games for the Egg Bowl in my life in 40 years of going to these games, or excuse me, more than 40, about 45 years of going to these games. So it's different. But realistically, it all comes down to this Florida game for Ole Miss. It's like I said, Florida just they really impressed me with that Georgia game. I thought they whipped Georgia on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the line of scrimmage, which rarely ever happens. And they had their quarterback get DJ get hurt there the Georgia game, and Georgia ends up pulling that game out. And then they laid an egg at Florida with a third string quarterback who had never taken a snap before. And, then they came back home and I mean, they played like their hair was on fire, like they were playing for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They were very impressive. And Alabama, and I think what Rodney's saying here is that no, Alabama doesn't have the team that they've had in the past under Saban. They've got some warts, but so does everybody. And that's the difference. There's so much parity this year. I mean, you look at Oklahoma, I mean, Wisconsin just ran the ball at will right up their gut. That kind of Pac-10 uh warts that carried over for all those teams for many years showed its ugly head against Oregon. Oregon has been so highly thought of, and they're really soft up the middle. And that doesn't win championships. Ohio State really struggle offensively. I mean, they have a very hard time moving the ball. Penn State, I don't even think they're a playoff team, honestly. Indiana, we're going to learn a lot more about them this coming weekend. Notre Dame, they're not a championship team. Look, we're going to see what happens to Army this weekend. If they didn't have that Notre Dame across their helmet, they wouldn't be in the playoffs, I don't think. You go on down the line. Georgia, I think Georgia, Ole Miss, and Alabama are the three real serious contenders to win the national championship. I just think that the SEC, the gap between the SEC and the conferences outside of the SEC is even more wide than it has been in the years past. The Big Ten is they were supposed to be, really good this year, and they've added teams, and I mean they're just really, really down this year. And the Big 12 is okay, but nothing special. The ACC's the ACC. The committee. I really hope that they come out and they don't do what they did last week, because what they're setting the precedents and saying is all we care about is your record. We don't care about strength of schedule. We don't care about quality wins. We don't care about any of it. We just care about what your record is. I mean, how can you have Notre Dame, Indiana, Penn State, some of these teams ahead of teams like Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss? Is mind-boggling. I mean, they have beaten absolutely nobody. Nobody. Indiana doesn't even have a win against a top 50 power team, and they're
Wow.
ranked ahead of these three teams. And you could even make the argument for Texas as well. Texas hasn't beaten anybody.
Yeah.
So that's
Correct.
they got to go. These conference championships mean absolutely nothing anymore, because you got so many teams in these conferences, and you've got 6, 7 teams tied for the same record, and you just decide to put two of them in there. They haven't earned a bit in the championship game. I mean, if you got 6, 7 teams with a 6-2 record, what does that really mean? You're just going to handpick to put two of them in the championship game, and they get an automatic berth to be a 1 through 4 seed. They've got to fix that. If you're going to do that, we need to go to a 10-game conference schedule so you can make it more equal amongst the conferences, and not have a situation where you have like Texas that doesn't play but one out of the top 6 teams in the conference. And so it's more balanced. But then if you do that, the SEC wouldn't have but one, maybe two teams in, if the NCAA, if the selection committee is worried about nothing but records. They don't do it that way in basketball. You could have a 19 and 11 team in basketball with an extremely difficult out of conference schedule, and a overall RPI, high RPI, that is a 2 seed, and you could have a 26-3 team that's a 9 seed because of their schedule. So
Yeah.
the committee has got to do something about this. Hopefully they start rectifying it this week, because all they're setting the precedent in right now is all we care about is your record. And
Yeah.
what does that do for the SEC?
Yeah. Hey, let me say something about Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama, right up near Huntsville on 72. New sponsor of ours on Sidelines. They are going to grow the brand in the footprint that is the SEC. Breaking ground this week on a new store in Auburn, Alabama, out on Opelika Highway. Winter Timber Outdoors open every day of the week. Check out and click on the QR code. Rete Masimara GPS, buy one, get one free. Black Friday special. Again, tap on that QR code. All the
Rob, I'm
shooting
going to
sports.
stop. You can't click a QR code, Rob. I'm just going to tell you right now, but your camera can take a picture of it, and that will take you there. You don't click a QR. Just so you know, Captain Technology.
There we go. That sounds like
we
my
don't
dad.
click them because I got to stop you. The whole world's like, does he know that you don't click?
No,
QR
I know
codes?
you got to take a picture.
Okay,
It's a bad habit, but anyway, take a picture of that QR code with your camera. Waterfowl hunting, duck season, guys, 96 hours away if anybody's keeping track, and I am, and I will be in Atlanta for Mallory's birthday. I'm being a good sport with this. Wow, having to miss opening day. It's going to be torture. But duck hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, pheasant, quail, all the shooting sports, and all the great gear, okay? They've got everything, tons of Yeti coolers, everything Yeti makes. If you are going duck hunting, get geared up. Sitka, they're a huge Sitka dealer. Everybody in that store is trained, squared away, knowledgeable of the products that you need. Kenny Winter, his chief of operations officer, Dylan Monroe, they are really, really strong. And the problem is that if a lot of times you might need to get hunting gear, you go to the wrong place. You go to Winter Timber Outdoors. They're going to get you in what you need that is appropriate, and it's going to be the best gear in that square, okay? All the hunting sports, over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in stock in the store. Again, they're growing all over the Southeastern Conference footprint. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Rodney, it's coming, man. Week 13, Alabama, Oklahoma. Again, Oklahoma's 1-5. Bama stubbed their toe at Vanderbilt. I think people thought the world was coming to an end. If we were in a courtroom, what Yancey just said would have been enough of a closing argument. Had I been the judge, I would have said, I see no more reason for further discussion. Let's send this thing to jury because I want to get home and watch the rankings come out tonight at 6:30. Rodney, what are the people in Tuscaloosa? What's the atmosphere right now? Again, you've had 17 years of Nick Saban. Now you got Kalen DeBoer. You've seen some great coaches there. As Franz Beard said last week, Alabama's always only arm's length away from championship contention.
Mm-hmm. No, obviously they've got to finish this out. I mean, they've got to finish this regular season out. And I think if they go 10-2 in the regular season, it's a great start for Kalen DeBoer. Obviously there's a lot of fans that are still upset over the loss to Vanderbilt and Tennessee, but this is a transition year. So I think all things considered so far, they're in a great position. Just have to finish this thing out against Oklahoma. Then you have Auburn coming here. Those two teams going to be challenges. That's kind of the way I look at it. And from there, you get a playoff berth. I think if you're 10-2, you're Alabama, you're going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
You go to the SEC championship game, perhaps. And I think it would be a great matchup if Alabama and Texas were in the SEC championship. Personally, as I look at it, I just as soon sit at home that weekend, have your playoff berth in hand, and not have to worry about that game. That's just me, but if you do go to that game and you play Texas, I think that's a great opportunity. It's a great matchup, not just for the SEC, but I think for all of college football. But again, if it's me, it's not ducking anybody, right? I just think, common sense says, hey, we're 10-2, we're in the playoffs, and people say, well, you could get a higher seeding and a bye. I get that. That's something to consider. But also, you're getting a bye if you don't go to the SEC championship game too. So
can you believe we're saying that, Rodney? That what you just said, it's not blasphemous, but it's shocking to hear. But I agree with you, Rodney.
Yeah, and what Alabama's done is they've gotten Milroe into the role that he needed to be in from the beginning. As Rodney said earlier last week, he doesn't need to be throwing the ball 40, 45 times. He needs to be throwing the ball 17 to 24 times.
And he has to
And
buy
they
into
worked.
that. He has to buy into that,
Yep.
Yancey. That's the
He has to
key.
buy into it.
That's the
Yep.
key. Is Jalen Milroe needs to understand, and that you're not Tom Brady, and you're not going to
Yep.
be Tom Brady. I know you want to
Yep.
be Tom Brady. You want to be a
Yep.
pocket passer, but you've got other kind of gifts that make you different.
Yeah,
You know?
he's thinking of the NFL. He's thinking of the NFL
Yeah.
and improving his stock. And I know where he's coming from. And then the other two issues with Alabama were the offensive line and the defensive backfield. And are they elite? No, they're not elite at those two areas, but they have gotten steadily better. And so when you add
Yeah.
those three combos, Milroe playing the role that he needed to be, the offensive line improving throughout this season, and the
Yep.
defensive backfield improving, that's what has allowed Alabama to become one of the, what I believe, three threats. Now I still think Texas has a chance as well. I'm nobody's sold because they've only played one top 20 power team in the United States, and they got manhandled against Georgia. I mean, just absolutely got manhandled. So there are some doubts there, but I do see, they don't have that Big 12 two-hand touch defense, kind of like the Pac-10 I'm talking about with Oregon. They play physical. That defense, Bo Davis did lead to LSU, and I question were they going to lose that edge along with those three top two-round draft picks they had on the defensive tackle last year, but they still
Sweat.
play
Yeah.
very physical. I think they've got a chance as well, but I do think that Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia are the class of the country right now.
Guys, like what you just said, it's a lot like basketball. You're going to have teams, whether they want to admit it or not, they don't want to be in the SEC tournament. They're okay losing in the first round. I hate to say that, but they do. I don't like that. I like you to try to win every game. But that's where we are in college football. And I like what
Yeah.
Chuck McKenzie, who's a smart guy watches this show. He says, even if we don't like the coach, it's okay to still cheer for the Gators or your team. But, guys, I think this Florida Ole Miss game, I mean, everybody's going to be
It's
glued
scary.
to the TV. It is because when Florida is like, I use the bonfire comparison. You build a big fire the night before on the side of the river. The next morning you get up. It doesn't take much to blow on those coals, put a little fresh saplings or some wood or some newspaper on there. Whoosh, here it goes again. When you shed light on a program with tradition like that, or Alabama, or these, Ole Miss, whatever, people forget about those lean years, guys. And Rodney,
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm gun shy. Maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I've been down this path already. It's a good win. I was there. It's on the sidelines. Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was a good win. And DJ Lagway's the difference. I agree. I agree. DJ Lagway closes out games that they couldn't close out before. DJ Lagway's the difference maker going forward. He makes your defense better. He makes everybody better. Offense holds the ball longer. Time of possession's more. Now you've got the extra. You got to spy him. So he's going to run, pass, or do a backflip. You never know. I mean, the guy's amazing, right? So he is your answer. Now you got to have a really good scheme, right?
You do.
We got to have, and so because everyone's going to watch all the tape in the world. Like we can watch everything, every little nuance about a player now. So you don't think everyone's got tape on him now? They do. Everyone's going to have more and more tape. People don't understand that. Yeah, you're great for the first couple of games. Yeah, but are you great all season? Are you great next year when you can, beat the man on the other side of the line of scrimmage, when you can line up and beat them time and time again just because you're better? That's when the great ones and the cream rises to the top and all that stuff. I'm not saying DJ Lagway is that, but there's a lot of pressure being placed on this young man right now to be the next something. Okay, LSU. I think LSU is on a downward trend. I don't like what's going on at LSU. I think it's tough. I think the swamp won that football game in the second for them.
No, there was a lot. But look, Florida.
It was as loud as it's been in there. It
extremely-
is as loud as it's been in there in 10, 15, maybe more. It's the loudest I've heard in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but you
I
gotta
agree.
also remember this. I said since the all season that Billy Napier has been practicing for this game since the all season. I mean, he just imagine if you're that Florida State and all of those Florida fans and media are drooling over Lane Kiffin. They want Lane Kiffin. You don't think that's not personal to him?
Yeah, but I don't
You
think
damn
Billy.
right it
I don't
is.
think Billy
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I don't think Billy's going to say, "Yeah, great, we're going to run the same 5 plays."
No, but you're
I think you're going to
schematically-
come in and say we're going to beat you with our guys, and I just don't know. I don't know. I'm
Maybe talent
cautiously
wins out.
optimistic about whatever. I saw Billy with AR, and we
Yeah,
all did.
Yeah. I just think schematically he's going to do a lot of different things this game. I think that coaching staff wants this game more than they want Florida State. I think this is their circle game. They are tired of hearing about Lane Kiffin, that staff down there, and every single day they got to read about it. They got to hear it from the talk radio. They got to hear it from them everywhere they go to the grocery store. We don't want you. We want Lane Kiffin. Now Lane Kiffin is coming to his house. And I'm telling you, I've had it circled since before the season. Ole Miss is walking into a Hornet's nest.
Yeah.
They better be ready. That's all I got to say.
I think Lane Kiffin knows it. I think if anyone does know it, Kiffin knows it.
Yeah, he
so
came out with gamesmanship.
I think Kiffin's a better coach. I think Kiffin's a better coach.
Look, Lane's already playing games with Billy. You know, he came out on Monday and said, everybody's healthy. We're getting the best receiver back in the country. Even Logan Diggs that hasn't played this year is going to be ready. All our offensive linemen are ready. And none of that's the truth.
Well, guys, here's what's funny.
Don't think Lane doesn't know.
Of course
you can watch. The coaches can watch. The coaches can watch all the tape they want to. But when you look at that back shoulder pass that DJ Lagway threw for Florida, and Brendan, you're like sometimes we get jaded.
Yeah, but he's got to stay. He can't do that every game. He's going to get hurt.
I'm just saying that the more you play, the more tape. The more you play, the more tape they have on you. We know that. That's a given. But also, good quarterbacks they self-scout and they're going to try to get better. But it will be a fun game, guys.
Good quarterbacks stay healthy. Good quarterbacks know how to stay healthy. My 2 favorite quarterbacks, Tim Tebow, John Elway, durable, always show up, drag their team behind them, and win football games.
Well, just slide whenever you can. Hey, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, folks, it's only $48 a year. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Great stuff. Always Monday night, 6 p.m. Sports 56 WHBQ and Super Talk Mississippi. Hey, we live in the most blessed country in the world. We're the most blessed people. Make it happen, people, every single day. Brendan, awesome show today. We covered a lot. Tomorrow, got Jake Wimberly going to check in with us, Dudley Dawson, Vince Ferrara, and more. It's getting better. Watch the rankings tonight and support Lisa.
Vote for Lisa.
Take a picture of that QR code with your phone camera and support her. And
free
look,
to vote. Donate money, breast cancer. Help breast cancer research. A vote for Lisa is a vote for Florida hurricane victims and everyone impacted on the Gulf Coast. Lisa's donating her funds if she were to win this international thing for the breast cancer research. She is going to donate everything she has to those victims. So vote for Lisa. She's our candidate. So
very kind of her. That's why we're so proud to have her as our candidate from SEC Sidelines. And folks, look. Take pictures of these QR codes with your cameras. Support our sponsors. You can find all of them, www.sidelines.live. Remember, we're live streaming this show. If you miss it live, you saw that fight with Tyson the other night. That they tried to live stream. It's tough. We have an executive producer who makes it happen. But if you can't watch us live streaming, watch us later whenever you want to at SEC Sideline Sports Network, and watch the Buddy Martin Show Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on there tonight, man. Thanks for watching. It's going to be a great day. Go make it happen. Happy early Thanksgiving. We'll talk about it every day.
Turkey.
Turkey. Good night, John Boy.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.